Hello, friends. Hmm. Wild here of Wild Fempire and Wild Moon Medicine Collective for Women. And this is now the second of my commitment to go live every Moonday at noon PST. Please say hello. Please let me know you're here. If you are watching me in my private Facebook group, Wild Fempire, you'll notice with StreamYard, you just need to give permission or let me know your name. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Molly. So grateful to have you here. So excited to step into these commitments of showing up live. I've been doing videos for a number of years now, and so this is a new edge. I'm really excited to have conversations with you to step into this idea of undoing our domestication, particularly as women and gender expansive folks that I believe, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I believe that these are the humans, women and gender expansive people, are the humans that hold the key codes for our next evolution in consciousness as human beings. That we are being gifted new language, new ways of thinking about energy and about expression and about the magnetic through these core groups of people. And so I'm showing up here to offer my small piece in the dream weave. And for today, what I'm curious about exploring and what I would love to talk about with you is this concept of tuning back into our own magic and our own intuition as a way of undoing our domestication. Let's see here. Hello, Hernie. It's so nice to have you here. Appreciate you being present. Hmm. Yes, and I love that you're bringing in your craft here of digital art. I think that stepping into our creativity and stepping into our our own way of expressing our magic truly is one of the main pathways into undoing our domestication. And so I spoke about this last moon day, and I'll dive in just a little bit here. What do I mean when I say our domestication? What do I mean by this concept? And what I am really curious about. Hi, Allie. Yes, I did cut my hair. Thank you for noticing. What I'm curious about with this concept of domestication is unraveling for ourselves the ways in which our culture and our educational systems have actually done us a disservice by disconnecting us from our bodies, from our own physical and emotional needs, and from our ability to tune in to our own intuition, to tune into our own truth and allow that to be the guiding force that we step into life with. So, when I say domestication, first of all, I'm just going to acknowledge that's kind of a crunchy word to feel into, particularly as human beings, right? Like, we step through the world thinking that we are not a part of nature. We have systematically been trained to think that we are better than nature or that we are better than, let's say, any other animal in the animal kingdom. And yet, the truth is, while we are perhaps elevated intellectually and we are working really hard at expanding consciousness at a quantum level, we are also still inherently animals. This is just the truth. We are inherently animals. We are human animals. We are these grand psycho-spiritual beings that have chosen to embody in these little teeny tiny animal bodies. And as such, this comes with the possibility that we can be trained to behave certain ways. No different from a rat in a maze. We are still animals and we can be motivated by sex, by food, by chemical releases in the brain, by stress, by fear, by pressure, by desire. We are as equally manipulated through these experiences as any other animal on the planet. And it's not good or bad or right or wrong. If you've been following me for a while, you know I tend to not use that language. I believe we're all here to just experience. We're here to experience life. And as such, it's going to run that whole spectrum of whether we prefer or not prefer the experience. Mm. And so, leaning into that concept of being domesticated and just allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of that, of, okay, there is a possibility that through the way my family of origin raised me, through the way my educational system conditioned me, through the way I have been mm, influenced by capitalism, white supremacy, the patriarchy, whatever direction you want to feel into, just noticing in yourself, is it true that there is a possibility that I may have been influenced by these things? And that for me to regain my power, for me to step back in and reclaim my own authentic way of being and moving in the world, that it might require I remove some of this conditioning. It might require that I remove some of these preconceived ways of thinking and operating from my daily actions and my daily choices. And if that feels true to you, then welcome. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for following this thread. I know it feels crunchy. I don't like feeling this in my body. And it also feels really important for me to say out loud, I don't think that there are evil humans doing this to us, right? Like, I don't believe that there is some evil wizard behind the curtain necessarily. I don't know that to be true. It might be, I don't know for sure. What I feel is true is that we are simply seeing the consequences of our ancestors' choices just a few generations ago, the last 1,000 years or so. And seeing how those choices have been amplified and normalized through enough families that we have stopped questioning whether or not the way that we are living and operating is still ringing true for us as a people. There's been this creation of an overculture that's based in capitalism and patriarchy that has been normalized and doesn't actually have our best interest at heart. And when I say our, I mean like myself, like an individual person, the 99%, if you will. And so today, what I'd like to explore in this conversation, and if you have any questions or any comments that you would like to pop in, I would love for this to be a communal experience, is how tuning into our own magic, tuning into our own intuition, reclaiming and reactivating our own experience with divination, with magical practices, with stepping into an alternative way of being spiritual that is grounded in our bones. I know, speaking as a white person, feeling that pain and wound of the disconnection from the old ways of being from my people, that there has been this big gap in the old ways of connecting with Mother Nature, connecting with spirituality that's based in animism, based in the land, based with the plants and with the spirits. And I'm curious. I'm curious how to utilize these practices as a way of reclaiming our power and stepping out of our domestication. So that's the concept for this transmission today. And it feels really, really potent to me. We just had Beltane yesterday, which is the May Day celebration, the celebration of fertility and aliveness and stepping fully out of winter towards summer. I'm tending to begin looking at the seasons just as summer and winter, and mentally beginning to feel into spring and fall as not as separations, but simply the transition period from one energetic expression to another. That there's really all we're always doing is moving back and forth between the two furthest extreme expressions of an energy, that we live in on a planet that is based on homeostasis, on balance. And so energy is always simply moving back and forth. Just like if you look at a wave of energy, right? Energy always moves in waves. Energy always moves in waves. The waves create patterns. We experience the patterns as reality. And so the seasons are the same thing. It moves from winter, which one might call the magnetic polarity. If your mind still operates in gendered language, you might call it the feminine polarity, into summer, which would be the electric polarity or the masculine polarity. And just beginning to look at quantumly how the world is simply doing this wave back and forth. It's simply moving energetically back and forth between these two furthest expressions of energy, which is always expanding, which is always increasing its capacity to express itself. And so, what we have been experiencing culturally is this idea of the toxic electric or the toxic masculine. Let's see here. Yes, thank you. I love this. Abandoning our domestication to step into sovereignty. Thank you so much for that. Yes, that is exactly what my work is shifting into. How do we collectively do this? And it feels so potent. It feels so potent to first get to this root and recognize that we all have these ways of thinking, these ways of using language, these ways of presencing ourselves in our lives that keep us trapped in that box, that keep us trapped in the cage of the toxic or overexpressed electric, overexpressed masculine. And what we're seeing in our overculture is this intense wave pushing us back to the opposite extreme of expression, back towards the magnetic. We're seeing this uprising of goddess culture, this uprising of feminism, this uprising of all things woman, which is beautiful. And we have to remember that just going all the way to the other side to another extreme doesn't necessarily fix the problem. It may just create a host of different experiences that we may or may not prefer. And so, in the midst of all this, we also have all of our gender expansive friends offering us new language. They're offering us new ways of thinking about and speaking about this experience of dancing between these two expressions of energy, which I am so, so grateful for. I am so, so grateful to step out of either or communication and step into the thinking of both and, to step into the thinking of um, the gray, the gray area between these two, and how delicious it might be if we could all begin residing in that gray area and respecting one another. And this is where sovereignty comes in. You spoke to sovereignty, and that is so poignant. This is the antidote to this back and forth that we have been experiencing for so long, is to each of us step into our own power, each of us step into our own spaciousness, and allowing that to be the truth, and trusting that we will all fit together just like wonderful puzzle pieces when we do so. That we have all been divinely crafted to fill a particular space. And what we have been operating in for far too long is this homogeneity that our culture has created by trying to fit us in like cogs in a wheel. We have been products of a culture that is based on our domestication, because if we are domesticated, if we are complicit in this experience, then there is no one to resist or question what is occurring. And this, for me, is where stepping into our own magic comes in, exploring what feels true to us through divination practices, exploring what feels true to us through what we perceive to be our way of being spiritual. Because I trust, and I believe that we carry in our bones and in our DNA the memories of our ancestors. We have access to these things. We have access to ritual. We have access to the deep connections that live in the marrow of our bones. We still have the ability to come together in community and to celebrate the turning of the wheel, to celebrate the changes in our lives, to grieve together, to hold the transitions of life together. We still have this capacity. And I know for myself, I spent many years grieving and feeling like I lost something. And we have lost things. We have lost a lot of our original roots as far as the specific spells and specific rituals and specific ways of doing things. And isn't that the way of great mystery? I mean, we're not really meant to hold on to everything all of the time. We're not really meant to attach so fully to something. And all of those previous spells and rituals and mysteries, while they hold great wisdom, and I so honor and appreciate them, and the ones that have been passed down to me, I hold with such preciousness. I so appreciate my elders. I so appreciate the wisdom that has been passed to me. And every piece of wisdom that has been passed was created by a human being just like me, with an intention of connecting to nature, of connecting to the land beneath their feet, of connecting to community and the cycles of life. And so I trust and believe that we all can still reclaim access to those parts of ourselves, and that we can allow that reclamation to be perhaps the very first step in reclaiming our power, our truth, and our voice from the domestication process. And so, what does that look like? I'm so curious for those of you who have chosen to join me here. What do your personal practices look like that really connect you to life, connect you to this experience of being a human animal in a body during a really stressful and chaotic period of human history? Like how are you choosing to ground yourself and connect in with the rhythms of life around you? I would love to know. And as you are typing those in or feeling into those truths for yourself, I would offer for myself the first thing I began doing was creating a daily divination practice for myself. I began reading the tarot cards when I was 19. I received my first deck as a gift at that point, and I have since had a daily practice of pulling one card a day for myself. And it took me many, many years to create a mastery with my deck. I am still learning, still learning, and still growing as always. I am forever the student. And I would say I feel a lot of deliciousness around that truth, that I want to live my life as a forever student, forever learning. And I have learned so much from this deck of cards. I've had this deck for the last 27 years. I've been using it or one of my oracle decks every single day. And I believe that this practice of stepping into divination, of owning my life experience, of allowing myself the space to play, to remember the magic of life, to follow the breadcrumbs of great mystery, has been one of the main ways that I have started to really come face to face with my own domestication, to see firsthand how how often my mind was the reason why I didn't actually see the joy and the magic that was possible in my daily life. How my own ego, my own brain that has been trained through this systematic process would talk me out of pure joy, would talk me out of simply enjoying or being in a space of wonder and awe at the ways in which things worked out, not the way I planned, but actually in a much better and more exciting and beautiful way. How many of you have experienced that? How many of you have experienced a time when you had a plan? You had the plan. It's going to work like this, A, B, C, and I'm going to hustle and I'm going to do everything to get this plan to work out exactly the way that I want it to. And then when it doesn't, instead of celebrating how it did work out, we suffer. We allow ourselves to feel agitated by the experience. We allow ourselves to be so attached to the outcome being the way that we prefer or think we prefer it to be, that we don't give ourselves the opportunity to fully take in and digest what great mystery has actually gifted us with. Thank you, Allie. This resonates with you so much. Let's see here. Oh, breath, dancing, holding myself in stillness, listening and creating music. Yes, beautiful ways of stepping into our own creativity. Yes, and that feels like a very true pathway to undoing this domestication that we've all been exposed to, stepping into our magic, our divination, our creativity, our ways of uniquely expressing who we are as individuals within a collective of humans. Yes, thank you, Ali Joy Yoga. Yes, also chopping wood, carrying water, right? Like allowing yourself to be fully expressed in your day to day experiences and letting those be beautiful and creative as well. Allie, here we have more and more learning to let go of plants and trusting the universe. The more I give myself the opportunity to trust the universe, the more I learn to trust myself. Ah, thank you so much for that little nugget of wisdom, right? So what I'm feeling that you're expressing here is the microcosm to the macrocosm, right? Like we are all divinity. We are all divinity. And when we begin to trust the universe, when we begin to trust great mystery and see how things unfold in their own divine timing, and we see how life is actually happening for us, even if it entails obstacles and pain and sorrow and all of the things that we have been trained to be repulsed by, we begin to see the gifts and the gold in all of those non preferences and trusting the outcomes. When we follow our own intuitive knowing, then we really do begin to trust ourselves in the microcosm. We begin to see ourselves as a reflection of the universe, a reflection of great mystery, that we can trust ourselves. We can trust our voices. We can trust our intuition. We can trust our boundaries. We can literally trust every piece of our experience because we can step back from it just a little teeny tiny bit and allow some spaciousness for mystery. In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say I believe that leaning into great mystery and allowing great mystery to be a piece of our daily experience is a major component of learning how to unravel our own domestication, right? Because our domestication is firmly rooted in this concept of control. It's rooted in this concept that if we are good enough, if we work hard enough, if we toe the line strictly enough, if we make enough plans and control and manipulate and micromanage all of the aspects of our lives, that we will somehow attain the American dream. We will attain whatever the thing is we have decided is our epitome of success. And in all of that, manipulating and controlling and anxiety and stress, we don't offer ourselves any breathing room to allow ourselves to be surprised, to digest the joy of allowing life to unfold in its own natural rhythm. We become so addicted or obsessed with the outcome, with the future, that we lose complete track and touch with the presence that we're actually in this now moment. Mm. And for me, this is why I really jive with magic and divination. This is why I really jive with tuning in, whatever your flavor is, the cards, the runes, the bones, angel cards, whatever your flavor, allowing ourselves a daily practice of stepping into that realm where we don't need to know the outcome, that we're just curious about the energy of, can support the mind in softening from that addictive quality of control. It can support us in stepping away from the ways in which we have been trained or indoctrinated to view our lives. Because let's get real. How many of you here actually want to live the same day, day after day? You know, we never really think about this. I know I didn't in my earlier decades. I didn't think about this concept at all. But my family of origin and my educational system trained me to think that having a life that was predictable and the same day after day was equivalent to safety. And safety is one of those tricksy words. We'll be unraveling that word in many of these live experiences each Moonday. I'm coming here live every noon PST, and I would love for you to continue joining me in these conversations. We have been trained to place our safety externalized from ourselves and to feel that in order to have that felt sense of safety, we must manipulate and control every aspect of our lives and not leave any room or spaciousness for the mystery, for the unknown, for the magnetic. We have been openly taught to resist and be repulsed by the magnetic, which is the void, which is great mystery, which is the contraction, which is winter, which is nothing more than the energetic expression that is the opposite of the electric expansion, right? Oh gosh, our culture is so good at putting the electric on a fucking pedestal. That expansion is the only way to be, that we must be growing and extracting and bigger, better, faster, more, louder. And that is woven into the paradigm that I am praying we are exiting from, which is the paradigm of power over, the hierarchical way of thinking. To step back into my previous suggestion of us being human animals, just cute little animals, psycho-spiritual beings in these little animal bodies. That old paradigm of power over is connected to the old consciousness, which operated through the alpha and beta principles, right? And just recognizing that our current over culture is rooted in this concept that there must always be an alpha, there must always be someone in power over that we all look towards, that guide the pack, that guide us, that tell us what to do, how to behave, how to be. And what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're all being invited into is the paradigm of power with, the paradigm of sovereignty, the paradigm of knowing and trusting ourselves and great mystery, and therefore one another, and learning how to work together for the benefit of everyone instead of the benefit of the alpha only. It's tall order. Like, we are Here we have chosen to embody in a potent moment in human history. Like, it is magical. It is magical that we have all chosen to be here in this now moment, that we are all willing to step into the discomfort of the tide shifting. It is magical that we are here in a time where we have so much access like this to one another, that we can begin to share these thoughts and these concepts, that we can begin to actively, from a grassroots level, begin to undo our domestication together. And this new paradigm that wishes to birth through us, that wishes to remind us of our own magic and our own medicine, is not going to be one that is handed down to us from the top. It is one that is sprouting up from within us, from beneath us, from Mother Earth herself. It is a paradigm that we first embody in the microcosm and allow to amplify and ripple outward from our own center channel. It's not the kind of change that we convince or force on one another. Those tactics are not going to work in this new paradigm shift. This is a shift where we go inward, where we fully embrace the magnetic and allow the change to come from the inside out, where we are radiant with this frequency of sovereignty and freedom. And when we do the work for ourselves and we simply begin showing up in our lives, we begin speaking this language, we begin offering this to our people, then our partners begin to be influenced. Our children are influenced, our neighbors, our communities. And it ripples outward at a ground level because it is felt. It is a feeling that we are able to transmit to one another. This feeling of, oh, I am whole. I am authentic. There's nothing wrong with me. And I am reflecting this to you. You are also whole. You are also unique, and there is nothing wrong with you either. The dissonance is in our overculture that has attempted to make us all the same, to make us complicit in our own cages, keeping us small and so distracted and so malnourished spiritually that we are willing to try and fill the hole by purchasing things and eating and doing whatever habits have given temporary relief in the past. And I offer this transmission with zero shame, zero judgment. I'm in this with you, right? Like, we are all in this together. And shame and guilt and judgment get us absolutely nowhere. So, entering into this inquiry, this self inquiry from a place of, oh, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that this is where we are. It's not a problem. It's absolutely not a problem. We must bring these truths to the surface and acknowledge them, recognize them, make peace with them, digest any feelings that might arise from the understanding and acknowledgement. These are necessary steps. And once this is cleared, once we release, we can then step into the next level of our experience, where we then begin to behave differently. We begin to create stronger boundaries. We begin to question our work, our relationships, our life choices. We start to recognize how much intrinsic power we actually have over our reality and our experience. And so, if you're in that in between phase where you're just now becoming comfortable with the concept that maybe you've been domesticated, that maybe there's been some times in your life where you weren't necessarily in full empowerment with your choices. It's really painful to sit in that space and to come to terms with the times in which we may have betrayed ourselves or betrayed our own internal knowing, betrayed our intuition. I know even now, I've been doing this work for decades, and still, even now, there are times when I betray my intuition. They're much smaller choices, and I catch them more quickly, but this still happens. There's no shame here. We're all in this together. We're all here. We're all learning how to walk ourselves back home to our own intuition. We're all learning still how to trust ourselves, how to be present in the discomfort of all of the times in our past in which we did not trust ourselves. And that's okay. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. It's a journey. It's a journey that we are all on together. Thank goodness I don't have to walk this journey alone, and neither do you. We are at a place in the consciousness of the human species where we can actually begin to see the ways in which these patterns were implanted in our social systems and have just been playing themselves out. That's it. And our forebears didn't have the capacity to see those patterns, right? Remember, energy moves in waves. The waves create patterns, and the patterns then create our reality, or the way in which we experience and see our reality. And we're in a potent time in human history where we are actively aware of the patterns and watching them begin to reach the end of the line, where they then need to move back in the opposite direction across the spectrum of energetic expression in order to bring us back into homeostasis, in order to bring us back into the middle road, which nature is always trying to achieve. Right? This is just a truth. The world, from the microcosm to the macrocosm, is always attempting to find its balance by moving back and forth between these two extremes of energy expressing itself, the electric and the magnetic. We can see it in our bodies as these beautiful, fleshy containers attempt to monitor temperature, manage salt levels, water levels, constantly working to create homeostasis in our bodies. And we can witness this fractally moving out through the quantum field on every level of this planet. There is this attempt to always be bringing back into balance. I don't know if you read that story a few years ago in Yellowstone National Park about what happened when they reintroduced the wolf into the environment. Within a very short time, the environment rebalanced itself, and all of these new unexpected surprises occurred that the scientists weren't even considering. They brought the wolf back for the sake of the wolf, to give the wolf habitat that we humans have taken from it. And in the bringing back of the wolf, it managed the populations of the four-leggeds that graze, which then allowed this resurgence of wildflowers and other plants. And it trickled down to the point where it even affected the fish that were in the waters. They saw this resurgence of life because now there were plants to shade the water and create an ecosystem. There are so many of these examples in the world around us of this planet simply trying to come back into balance, always attempting to come back into balance. And so, on your journey of relinquishing your domestication, just know it takes time. It may be a lifelong journey. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. Your family didn't do anything wrong. Your educational system didn't do anything wrong. We're just aware now. We're awake and aware of the patterns. And so I invite you this week. We just entered an eclipse portal. We are in a 2-ish week time frame where we collectively, are being invited to shake up the ways in which we seek comfort in our lives, the ways in which we avoid deep feelings, the ways in which we might mentally grasp or hang on to safety or security. We're all being invited to reorganize ourselves around these concepts and investigate what is actually true for us in this now moment, what actually feels true, rather than the ways we have been just reacting. We're being invited into a new way of responding to our lives. And so this week, I invite you to invite in some divination to your life, whether you use tarot cards or have an oracle deck, or you can even write out some words that you really enjoy on slips of paper and keep them in a bowl and just draw a word every day. And track how these pulls show up in your life. Track how great mystery arrives in your life, how you can tune in to the other side of the veil and let that mystery offer a richness and a different level of knowing your own lived experience. This is a beautiful way to tap into the magnetic principle, to invite more magic into your life, to just pause and create a little more spaciousness in the story that you are actively writing for yourself about your life and about how you feel. Yeah, this feels like I'm coming to the end of this transmission for this Moonday. If you have any questions or anything you would like to share and you want to pop it in the chat, I am delighted to stay on for another minute or so and read those. And otherwise, if you are complete, I just want to say thank you so, so much. You could be literally anywhere in the world doing anything else. And the fact that you chose to spend a few minutes of your time receiving this transmission means the world to me. I appreciate, I appreciate so, so much. Yeah. And I'm not seeing any comments, so I am going to bring this live to a close. I will be back next Moonday at 12 p.m. PST every Moonday for at least this year. We'll see how it unravels. That is my commitment to you. And also next Tuesday, the 17th, I will be live, having a live in real life, in person event in Portland. Details will be coming out in the next day or two. It will be at Earth Space PDX. Be offering a live presentation on leaning into mystery and learning how to empower ourselves through chaotic times. If you would love to join me, please do. I would love to be joined by you. There will be a beautiful organic meal served. It is by donation. No one will be turned away for lack of funds. So please do join us. Help expand this conversation. Oh, thank you, Ali Joy Yoga. Thank you so much. So much love for you as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Take good care. Keep shining your light. Keep being your whole unique selves, diving into your creativity. And shoot me a message. Let me know how this transmission unravels. Let me know how you choose to step into your own creativity and your own juice. I am just so excited to be on this journey with each one of you. Take good care. Bye for now.